Texas.
remember.
I think it happened last week.
Okay.
A week ago today.
A week ago today,
Yeah.
since the announcement that the CrossFit Games were moving to Fort Worth, Texas next year in the beginning of August, which is, everyone knows is very hot. There was a lot of speculation about what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Dave Castro was recently on the Drop the Mic podcast, so that's M-I-K-E, Drop the Mic podcast, and he said on that podcast that 95% of the games events or tests, whatever we're calling them this year, exams, maybe it changes, who knows? That
Exams!
Batteries, I don't know. Whatever they're going to be are going to be held indoors. So 95% are held indoors, which I don't think comes as a shock.
No.
But there are definitely some things that you can infer from that.
Okay, can we just address the elephant in the room?
Sure.
What? Nothing against Dave, but why is he announcing this on a podcast, and why is CrossFit not announcing this?
That's a whole nother deal. Like that can be a whole other show.
That's where my head first
No,
goes, but yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I appreciate what Dave does with his weekly updates. I think that's great. But what I don't understand is why that's not on a CrossFit channel. Like I just don't get that. You know, they had this megaphone to use to put out news, and it's like all this stuff is coming out in other places. But again, that's a great point, but probably a different discussion for a different time. But what the biggest speculation, and we talked about this with Jason Grubb last week, and I think when you now understand that every event's going to be inside over 4 days, I think it makes it very clear that there's just not enough time to do much else, maybe individuals and teams there, and then how do you fit all that in? So it does look more likely that things are going to get spun off, and that is the speculation that is out there. But I also think there's some positives here too, and we just had a great discussion on a recording of Death By with Jason Khalipa and Chase Ingram, is that, you know, if you find a way to hold this thing and make it very compelling within one building, that there are a lot of good things that can come out of that. First is, and Chase mentioned this, and I think someone else has mentioned this too, and I can't remember who it was, but that you can now package this and you can move it around more easily. Maybe it was Pat Vellner who said that to me. I don't know. Which is, I think that's a valid point. Yeah. I also think that from a broadcast standpoint, it makes it a much more made-for-TV event, saves you a lot of money as far as, you know, like you said, outdoor events are expensive. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like a whole different level of production that you need to put behind those things.
Yeah, and one thing I didn't mention on Death By, because full admission, I hopped in last minute. I was a last minute call from the bullpen, but we haven't talked much about what the venues outside of the Dickies Arena are, because there's a variety of venues outside, out around that could be indoor. I haven't looked into it totally, but there's like convention center space and space that gets used for a ton of other events that could potentially be leveraged in different ways as well that are still indoors. So
would you think that was where they put the vendors?
Yeah, but I mean, I want to say, hold on, I'll efforting this info.
That. Okay. But Lauren, what do you think about that? Like when you heard that was going to be 95%, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
The first thing that I thought of, truthfully, was, wow, I wonder what the athletes are thinking right now, knowing that, I mean, that just eliminates so much of the unknown element, because, okay, what is that 5%? I mean, is it going to be a running workout? Is it going to be swimming somewhere? Is it going to be bike? But could it be all of them? I don't think so. I think that it eliminates some of those unknown elements that we're all waiting for at the end of, or in the lead up to the CrossFit Games. I think after our conversation on Death By, everybody made really great arguments and points. And I think if we're looking at the future of the sport and how to grow the sport and make it more professional and get more sponsors on board, even though, like, as an OG CrossFitter, as a fan, you want to see all of these cool elements, I think this is the best way to make it the trajectory to the sport and see more growth. Mm-hmm.
So
this is the right way.
So obviously you have the Dickies Arena, but there's also the Will Rogers Coliseum, which is 5,000 or 5,600 seats the Will Rogers Auditorium, which is 2,800 seats. There's an equestrian center. There's the exhibits hall, which I assume, some of the other things. There's another the James L. and Eunice West Arena. There's a John Justin Arena, the W.R. Watt Arena. So there's a ton of venues, it seems like, within that bigger.
I wonder if they're interconnected. Like, meaning that you could run one thing out of the same, like they're all wired together, so you could run one production out of one spot. Like if you had one control room inside the Dickies Arena Center, that you could do that. I don't know, because that would be, then that's a game changer. Now is that okay? Now we can have some different venues. But the other thing that I thought about too, and I think it was Chase who brought this up on Death By. And by the way, that will be released tomorrow to everybody. If you're one of our patrons, you can go actually watch it right now. You should have the link on our Patreon portal. But is that, team events, those are hard to run indoors. If you run those indoors,
that was a good point,
it's you have to have a lot more heats. Like, you can't do 2 heats of 20 teams, or even maybe it just depends.
Do you think they would change the format again? 4 teams,
they might. They take fewer.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these arenas look pretty cool. Like, all within the footprint. So, like, the John Justin Arena is like a rodeo arena almost, which I imagine you could probably do something with that, and that's indoors. Mm-hmm. Though obviously the Will Rogers Memorial Center I have pulled up. That includes the auditorium wouldn't be big enough, but there's multiple arenas like for horse and livestock shows that look like they're big enough to be utilized for events. So there's this footprint looks pretty big. See, all these are covered events. There's the Dickies Arena. It's all pretty close too, and there's a park outside. So
yeah. But Tommy, you also brought a good point too. 95% leaves 5%.
Yeah.
So there is still going to be something. So there is that anticipation of, okay, if you're only going to do one that's outdoors, what is that going to be, and what's it going to look like? And I think there's a way to kind of build some. You brought that up. It was a great point.
Yeah, and if that could be something super cool. Like, I keep coming back to the fact that they run the livestock through downtown.
Yeah.
Like, there could be something that's like built off of that, or
like culturally adding it into the games.
Yeah, and I'm just like, there's a ton of there's this huge park, I think it's called Trinity Park, that's right next to it too. So there's this huge outdoor, there's a Fort Worth Botanic Garden, Japanese Garden, Trinity Park, there's a duck pond, there's this huge stretch. You see this right here? There's some really cool stuff there, that, including an outdoor field that could be utilized in that regard if they do want to do it early or late, that I think would be a little bit more reasonable. There's a river. I don't know the status of that river. It could be one of those things where, like, you don't go in the river. But I'm just trying to see, like, if there's a place to swim, because if we do an indoor swim event, that doesn't take away from the 5%, right?
No, because there's some wiggle room in that statement. Will be held inside. He did not say inside of what venue, to the best of my knowledge.